Tennessee State Standard US.11. This standard says you need to be able to explain the rise of the labor movement, union tactics, the role of leaders, the unjust use of prison labor, and the response of management and government. So the first thing we're going to look at with this state standard is we're going to talk about the labor movement and what exactly that was. So the Gilded Age we talked about before is your Industrial Revolution. And during the Industrial Revolution, you have factories being built like crazy. America is mass producing stuff, but you don't get a lot of attention paid to working conditions. So towards the end of the Industrial Revolution, you have this new movement, which is called the labor movement. And what the labor movement is for, it's for workers' rights. It's for better working conditions. It's for more money for workers, more security in their jobs, a lot of different reasons. And these workers start to combine together. And the first thing workers do is they create what are called unions. And what a union is, it's a group of united workers. And what unions could do is they could achieve better rights together than workers could apart. So workers kind of start to organize themselves into these unions. And the two most important unions that you need to know were ran by these two guys right here. The first, Samuel Gompers, which is an awesome name in U.S. history. But what Samuel Gompers did is he founded probably the biggest union in the world, was the American Federation of Labor. Okay, you can just know it as the AFL. And anybody in a lot of different fields of work could join the AFL. And the AFL would represent you against your employer. It would try to get you better wages, better vacation, better health coverage, all these different kinds of things. The other guy is Eugene Debs. He was the leader of what's called the ARU. That is the American Railway Union. And most people who joined that union were railroad workers. So some of these unions were very specific, whereas the ARU, American Railway Workers, some like the AFL let people from all different types of jobs join. Now, the question you might ask is, okay, well, so all these workers combine together, what kind of power do they have over these businesses, okay? And you guys already know these businesses were insanely powerful. The unions had two or really one major tactic they could use, which are strikes. And what a strike is where workers refuse to work. So like I said, a strike is where workers refuse to work. So like, for instance, let's say workers want, to have to work less hours in a day. So they go to the company and they say, we want to work less hours. What can we do to make that happen? The company says it's not going to happen. So the workers literally would tell the company, they would say, look, until you allow us to work less hours in the day, we're just not going to work. So that's a strike. And so when they go on strike, they refuse to work in hopes that the company will lose so much money that the company will give the workers what they want. Now, not all strikes work. Very few strikes really worked because companies are going to have two major tactics to get back at people. The first is blacklisting. What blacklisting is where companies would keep lists of workers who had joined unions. And if you were on this list, you were refused a job. So basically, companies didn't want to hire workers who had joined unions because they knew these workers would require more money, work less hours, and have more rights. So companies would share this list back and forth. Hey, so-and-so has joined a union, don't hire them. And so if you made it on these blacklists, it was really, really tough to get jobs. So this was a way to encourage people not to join unions. The next thing is strike breakers. What strike breakers are is they're pretty much thugs that were hired by companies to literally break up strikes. And they would come in when workers were on strike, and they would come in with baseball bats and weapons and beat people, literally to force them back to work. So it's really, they're just trying to use intimidation to get people to go back to work. All right, so the major event that we have to talk about with this standard is called the Coal Creek Labor Saga. And this is a really important strike in Tennessee, and it really shows a lot of different aspects of the labor movement. So first thing you got to know is Coal Creek. Where is Coal Creek? You probably never heard of Coal Creek, even if you lived in Tennessee your whole life. And that's because technically Coal Creek doesn't even exist today. Coal Creek has gone through multiple name changes. So first you can see where Coal Creek is. It's over here in East Tennessee above Knoxville. It's in the mountains. That red county is the county where Coal Creek is located. Originally, back in this time period, it was called Coal Creek. Hopefully you can figure out what resource came out of Coal Creek. If not, then we have bigger problems. After this, the town changed its name to Lake City, and it's now since changed its name to Rocky Top. So if you didn't know that there's actually a Rocky Top, Tennessee, there is. And it's where this really important strike and war essentially breaks out. So like we said earlier, Coal Creek, the main resource they're going to have in Coal Creek is obviously coal. All right, it was a coal mining community. That's how everybody in the town made their living. They relied on it. And if you look at this picture over here, this is actually from Coal Creek during this time period. You got two miners who are pushing their mining cart out of the mines. It's just the way of life. It's what everybody did in the town. Everybody was coal miners. Well, for anybody that worked at the mine, the most important thing for them was a guy who was called the check weighman. What the check weighman was is he worked for the coal mine, and what he would do is he would weigh the coal that people mined. So the way workers were paid is at the end of the day, kind of like you can see these two guys here, they would push their mining carts. You can see their mining carts right here in the picture. They would push their mining carts out of the mine, and the check weighman would put the coal they mined on a scale and weigh it. And depending on the weight is how much they got paid. So more coal, you get more money. So the obvious incentive here is to work harder. The harder you work, the more coal you get, the more money you make. So the thing is with this check weighman though, the workers relied on his weights to really be able to survive. And so the workers really wanted to make sure that there was somebody there that was fair, right? They don't want someone cheating them out of the coal that they're mining. So these workers asked the company, they said, look, we would really like to be able to choose our own check weighman. That way we can choose somebody that we know is truthful. We know that's not going to cheat us out of the weight of the coal. And the company said, okay, cool, choose your check weighman. Well, so they choose their own check weighman. This works for about a week. And the company realizes, oh crap, this isn't good. We need to hire our own check weighman. That way we can start cheating the workers out of their money and we don't have to pay them as much. So shortly after allowing the workers to have their own check weighman, the company takes that right away. And you can probably guess what happens from there is you're going to get another strike. So the workers say, we are not going back to work until you let us choose our check weighman once again. So for a couple months, the miners are on strike. They're refusing to go back to work. So the owners of the mine are, in the meantime, losing money like crazy. Nobody's mining their coal. They've got a problem. So they contact the government in Tennessee, and our governor at the time was named Governor Buchanan. He comes up with what he thought was a genius idea. Governor Buchanan says, look, here in Nashville, I've got a bunch of convicts, a bunch of prisoners. They don't have anything to do. I'm going to send prisoners to you to mine your coal. You don't have to pay these prisoners. They're serving their sentence for the crimes they committed. Let's just let them mine the coal while these workers are on strike. So, I mean, nothing could go wrong there, right? You're going to ship a bunch of convicts over to Knoxville, let them work in a coal mine with picks and shovels and possibly dynamite. Nothing could go wrong in that scenario, right? So Governor Buchanan sends the prisoners. They arrive in Coal Creek. And as you can guess, the striking miners are a little upset. So what really develops here is called the Coal Creek War. And what this is, it's a war between the striking miners and it's against the Tennessee National Guard. So the governor, when he sends in prison convicts, he sends in military to guard them. And so what happens when they get there, the striking miners realize, hey, this isn't good. These prison convicts are in our town and working our jobs. We need to stop this. And so the striking miners actually attack the prisoners and the National Guard. And what's crazy is they defeat them 2 times. Like the striking miners defeat our Tennessee National Guard. And they send the prisoners and the National Guard back to Nashville and say, tell Governor Buchanan, don't come back. So obviously that's pretty embarrassing for the governor. The governor ends up sending more soldiers, and what develops is this little war. All right, and you've literally got, these miners who are fighting this war in the hills around Coal Creek, and this goes on for a long time, and it actually makes national headlines. It becomes a huge ordeal. Now, fast forward to the end of this, eventually the coal miners or the striking miners lose, and they're forced to go back to work. And most strikes during this time period, guys, do not have happy endings, meaning the strikers very rarely get what they wanted. And so eventually the coal miners have to go back to work, and they don't get to hire their own check weighman, and their only alternative is to let their family starve. So it was really, you either go back to work with less rights, or your family starves. And they ended up choosing to let their families, have food, even though they didn't have as good of rights. But that's kind of how most of these strikes, like we said, would go during this time period. So that's the Coal Creek Labor Saga. Great example of prison convicts being sent in, and a strike that ultimately was unsuccessful.